This will be Life in Colonial America Part 9. We're going to look at Colonial Money Systems. And this topic will complete the unit, and it might or might not take as long as one of these videos usually takes. So this might just be a lucky one for you. Okay, money. Three things you would need to be able to tell me about if you got the Colonial Money System question on exam 1 and opted to try it. By the way, on the exam, you'll be presented with 2 possible essay questions of which you will answer 1 and only 1. Okay? There'll be more review on how that works a bit later on. The total question bank could be several questions. It would randomize 2 that you'd be presented with. But anyway, if you got that one and tried to do it, there'll be 3 things you need to be able to tell me. 1, what is the basis of colonial money systems? 2, what is their essential monetary problem? And 3, by what means did they attempt to solve their essential monetary problems? So we'll start with a visual aid. I've got me a visual aid here. Everybody, I suppose, knows what this is. Okay, it's the US dollar. And what I'm going to do is contrast money we're used to and with money in colonial times to show how different it was from what we have now, and maybe gives you a little clearer idea of what those folks were up against. To begin with, this is recognizable. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody pretty much all over the world knows what it is, because this is remaining. How much longer, I don't know. It'll hurt us when it goes away. This is almost a world currency. U.S. money is technically the world reserve currency, which means that in terms of international trade, most nations, if not all, have to pay for their imports in U.S. dollars. That spares the world economy from having to have complex monetary exchanges involving 190 different kinds of money out there. U.S. dollars are the funds that are used to pay debts in international trade. So it's recognizable. Okay, that's an advantage that the colonists did not have. Plus, it's a base 10 system. Our monetary units are in tens, parts of tens, and multiples of tens. So the arithmetic is very easy. There's another thing. We're not about to run out of these. The gigantic monopoly game we call an economy is not about to shudder and cough and seize up because of not enough monetary tokens to grease the wheels of commerce. So these are all examples. Now, so what was the basis of all colonial money systems? Colonial money systems were based mostly on English money. By based, I mean that people quoted prices in terms of English money. They kept their accounts in terms of English money. And English money did not have all the advantages ours has. All right? As we're going to see, I'll go ahead and tell you this and then finish up what I started here. The basic monetary problem is that the only thing missing from the picture in colonial times was the actual English money itself. Colonists rarely ever even saw real English money. What English money made its way to the colonies would wash back to England again on the next ship to try to satisfy the trade imbalance. So there's that. But beyond that, even if you're keeping books and the stuff, it wasn't decimal based. Mainly you have pounds, shillings, and pence, and other monetary units larger and smaller, so it's complex. But just for those 3, let's see, 12 shillings equal to pound, and 20 pence equal to shilling. Try making change in that. So they did not put their money on a decimal system until 1971. And for much of the colonial period, if you lived in England and your income was £100 a year, you were in tall cotton. That was enough to live quite comfortably. So it doesn't translate directly into dollars. So the basis is English money. Sometimes, here's the footnote, Sometimes they would base it on Spanish money because with monies from all over Europe in circulation in the colonies, the most common foreign coin you're likely to run into is a Spanish dollar. So sometimes they might base it on those, but foreign money was always rated in terms of how much it was worth in English money. I'll get back to that. So far, so good. Basis is English money. The problem is they really don't actually have much of that stuff at all. So the third part of this was, what did they use to substitute in so they'd have a medium of exchange? You have to have a medium of exchange. Without it, you're reduced to using something known as a barter system. And that's where goods and services are exchanged directly for each other without reference to any standard of value. It is by definition not monetary. But the preferred substitute, I probably shouldn't put this second, but I did in the supplement. So here we go. The preferred substitute would be foreign coinage. Foreign coinage is more common in the colonies than English coinage is by far. And remember, most people are farmers. They don't do a lot of economic exchanges. So it's hard to know how much they actually needed money. It's almost borders on being a non-monetary economy, but they did have money in various forms. Anyway, you'd use foreign coins. Now, the coinage was real money. It was considered to be valuable because it's made out of valuable stuff. Okay, the English pound was a silver coin. The Spanish dollar was a silver coin. So every colony ended up adopting equivalency schedules. Where they would list all the foreign coins you might be likely to see and show how much English money each of them would be valued as. Got that? For example, a Spanish dollar was usually rated at 5 shillings in English money. So you got a Spanish dollar, we're going to call that 5 shillings. Now, if you assayed the thing out, a typical Spanish dollar in typical condition, the silver in it is actually worth about 4 shillings 6 pence. So think about that. I owe you 5 shillings, so I toss you this Spanish dollar. We're going to call this 5 shillings, when it's really only worth, in terms of the metal it contains, 4 shillings 6 pence. Are you good with that? Or is somebody's ox getting gored here? Well, that would be option number 2. And it shows us something that was in force then, and it's pretty much in force now. And that is that debtors, people who owe more than they are owed, outnumber creditors who are owed more than they owe. Got it? And since debtors outnumber creditors, they use their control of government power to cheat their creditors, the people they owe the money to, by making it possible to repay them with money that's not worth as much as the money they originally borrowed. Okay, so there we have it. So foreign coins circulate. Still, though, there are nowhere near enough of them to meet our needs. Another thing, and in the timeline this probably should have gone first, would be commodities. Any commodity, which is something people can produce and sell, marketable commodities, nearly anything you can think of was patched in as money at one time or another. They used tobacco, they used fish, they used bushels of wheat, sometimes livestock, powder and shot, whiskey jugs, preferably full, and wampum. Wampum was a medium of exchange that the Indians used all over North America. It consisted of little bitty white shells, little bitty black shells strung together like beads. A black shell was worth twice the value of a white shell, but the Bank of England's not going to accept that stuff on deposit. So the biggest, most significant, and most long-lived example of a commodity serving as the basis of money was tobacco in both Virginia and Maryland. That's what they raised. They raised tobacco. And as early as the 1660s, the Virginia colony declared tobacco to be legal tender. You find those words on the face of a dollar bill. It says, "This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private." To tend something is to offer it for acceptance, okay, as someone tends their resignation. So if it's legal tender, it's official money. Now, don't get the wrong idea. You don't have the Virginia housewife lugging a big old sheaf of tobacco leaves to the general store, and she staggers in and slaps it down on the counter and catches her breath and asks the storekeeper for a loaf of bread, a carton of milk, 2 dozen eggs, and a carton of cigarettes. Doesn't work that way at all. You raise your tobacco, you harvest the leaves. When the time comes, you hang them out to dry or cure. When that's done, you stuff them into these little wooden barrels for shipment to England, where somebody will give real money for them. You deposit them in a government-licensed warehouse. They have those around the countryside, and the warehouse guy writes you out a paper receipt for each barrel of tobacco that you deposited there, probably with a numerical code so that you can identify which ones. Now, it's the tobacco bill, the piece of paper representing the value of tobacco in the warehouse, that would circulate as money. You could pay debts with it. You could pay your taxes with it. If you're on the colony's payroll, you get paid in it, and the House of Burgesses would usually rate it at a little higher than the actual market price is going to be. Okay. So, more I could tell you on that, but I don't have time. By the end of the 1600s, colonies were starting to use paper money. Okay, this was a debt money system. The first known use was in 1689. There'd been some trouble because of a war that started that year. Massachusetts had sent some militiamen out to protect against the Indians, and they're coming back again, and the colony does not have enough coinage in its treasury to pay them off. Unpaid soldiers can be trouble. So they paid them in IOUs, known as indented bills. Each soldier would receive pieces of paper, each one worth supposedly a certain amount of silver coinage. So this indented bill can circulate as currency because each one represents the obligation of the colonial government to pay the bearer, that's whoever's got the thing, the face value, however much it says on there, at some unspecified future time. So over the next few decades, every single colony resorted to using paper money. And paper money worked pretty much like this all the way down through the end of the year 1963 in this country. Normally, they didn't just issue this on a regular basis. What they did was to cover shortfalls, unexpected shortfalls, that kind of thing. Now, most colonies were very careful to maintain their paper money in a responsible way. There would be an ongoing temptation to just issue more paper bills rather than raise taxes. The problem could be if more of the bills came in for redemption, that's when you turn in for the money, real money, then they could handle. So most of them were careful about that. Sometimes they'd get in trouble, give in to temptation. The poster child there was Rhode Island, which ends up flooding the whole colony with virtually worthless paper bills, declaring them to be legal tender, and eventually declaring that if a creditor refused to accept worthless Rhode Island currency as if it were worth full face value, if you turn it down, the debt's canceled. So there's some other stuff in the supplement about that, but that gives you a general idea of what money was like. Now remember, there's all these different kinds of paper money potentially washing around. You don't know whether it's good or not. Some people refuse to accept it at all. So it's nothing like the neat money system that we have now. This does conclude the lecture coverage for Unit 1. The next thing you'll be doing next week is taking the first exam. So and it's based on the supplement, so you need to do 2 things without fail. Read the chapters in the supplement. There are 4 of them in the first unit. You have Pre-Columbian America, Discovery and Exploration, English Colonization, and Life in Colonial America, and watch all of the lecture videos that I've put up because they and the supplement chapters support each other. There you go.